Great. So what is Campus Conservation Nationals? This is our electricity and water reduction competition, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. It's the largest electricity and water reduction competition for colleges and universities in the world. It's absolutely free, which is a question we get a lot, and it's open to all campuses. So that's 2-year, 4-year, community colleges, HBCUs, absolutely any higher education campus. We're really excited to have it represent all those schools. CCN aims to engage, educate, motivate, and empower students to conserve electricity and water on their campuses. And we're going to get into all the different ways that you can make this happen through CCN. CCN is a very special project too, because it's brought to you by a collaboration of a couple of different organizations. As I mentioned, I'm from the U.S. Green Building Council, and I manage the USGBC Students Program. But I'm joined in this by Lucid, an industry leader and innovator in providing information feedback technology to save energy and water in buildings that's been serving higher education institutions for 10 years. And my colleague Chelsea from Lucid is going to be on the call a little bit later today. The Alliance to Save Energy, and specifically their Power Save Campus program, which is currently on 16 universities and employs over 75 interns each year, empowering them to be tomorrow's energy efficient leaders. And last but not least, the National Wildlife Federation, which is America's largest conservation organization. Their campus ecology program has been helping colleges and universities colleges and universities really put conservation first. And I encourage you all to also check out their new Eco Leaders program. It's pretty exciting stuff coming from NWF these days. This is actually the 5th year of Campus Conservation Nationals. So we've learned a lot over the years that we're excited to bring to your campus. But I also just want to talk a little bit about the success we had last year to set the scene for, I think, what we can all accomplish together this year. So in Campus Conservation Nationals 2014, which happened last spring, 109 schools participated with over 1,300 buildings, and that's 265,000 students and staff were involved in this. So we're really excited about the breadth of that. And as I said, these institutions are from all across the country, although special points to anybody on the call from the Midwest. We hope to engage you a little bit more. And again, this is a mix of 2- and 4-year institutions. All of these schools together, remember, 109 schools, were able to reduce their energy use by 2.2 million kilowatt hours, and also reduce their water use by 476,000 gallons of water. But those are just kind of numbers. So to illustrate that electricity reduction is equivalent to taking 201 homes off the grid for an entire year. And that amount of water is actually the equivalent of 1.8 million water bottles. So we saw some really great results in the 4th year, and we're hoping to even do better than that this year, because also that translates over into money, which is often how you can make the case to the institution that you're a student at or working for. Because last year, that saved almost $200,000 for the colleges and universities that participated. I, of course, also want to give a special shout out to all of the great schools that were in our top 10 reducers. As you can see, we have the schools listed up there, and our special guest today is from Bard. So it'll be exciting to hear from one of those top 10 reducers and how they did it. And this is for electricity, of course. We also had top 5 reducers for water, a really diverse group of schools, which I'm excited about. NWF also hosted a poster contest last year, and the winners you can see there below. It's something that we're going to be doing again this year, so stay tuned for that. I also actually meant to mention this for electricity, but for all of those, I don't know if it's going to let me go back. Oh. So looking at these results for electricity, what I think is really the most impressive here is that the mean or average deduction was 4.5% And the median reduction was 3.7%, which is really exciting because it shows that most schools did reduce, and you can see that right here. In fact, all of our top 10 energy reduction schools actually each reduced by 11% or greater. So we definitely saw their efforts come through in that. Yeah, on individual campuses, the first place building typically reduces over 20%, with at least a quarter of buildings typically reducing 10% or more. So we see a lot of results, and again, we're hoping to get these even better next year with the support of new resources from CCN, and of course, ideas and best practices from all of you. All right, so we are going to dive right into what is an energy or water reduction competition, and what does this look like on your campus. So what this is a building versus building competition to see which building can achieve the biggest % reduction in electricity or water use during a competition period in comparison to a baseline period. So essentially, it's a building that's trying to compete against another building, but also against itself, right? Because we set the baseline for a building, and then you want to reduce from that amount. And we're going to talk all about baselines a little bit later in this webinar. So now that you have a little bit of a background on what this competition and what Campus Conservation Nationals really is, I want to talk about why you would want to host a competition on your campus. We have a couple of really great reasons which we think are the most compelling. The first is that it's to foster a culture of conservation on campus. A competition is really a great way to foster this culture because it's really active and it involves all different sorts of stakeholders on the campus and the student body, whether that's in freshman dorms or Greek houses or just generally across campus. It's a really great way to get everybody involved. That's also something that when I spoke to Appalachian State University, who's one of our top 10 reducers from last year, this is one of the things they told me was they got the most out of is fostering that culture of conservation. Also, then there's a kind of obvious reason, right? Which is that you can save electricity and water on your campus, which not only is good for the environment, but it can be a really a great source of pride for the campus, and of course also save your campus money, which we all know can be the bottom line sometimes. Third, running competition empowers students to develop leadership, community organizing, and career development skills, and I really can't understate how awesome a project this is for students to be involved with. As I mentioned, I'm the manager of the USGBC Students Program, and I really see so many students take on a leadership role in this program and have such an enriching experience for it, and also are able to really serve their campus in a meaningful way. And last but not least, have a ton of fun. Running competition can be so creative and exciting on campus, and we see the most exciting and off-the-wall events happen around this. In the bottom right, you can see the large box made out of, it looks like PVC pipe, which is something that they moved all around their campus. That's from Brown University, and it represents 1 ton, excuse me, 1/8 of a ton of carbon. And so they were able to set that up all over campus to represent how much their student body could save. But we see tons of stuff just like that. And all of that fun also happens in the dark. There's a huge Do It in the Dark campaign that we see where schools all across the country have everything from campfires to you know, competitions to even a dodgeball competition last year of doing things in the dark. So it really can be just a ton of fun to participate in Campus Conservation Nationals. And with that, I'm really excited to be able to have you all hear from one of these organizers of Campus Conservation Nationals on their campus. So I'm going to be turning it over to Carl Umrit. He's a student at Bard College and was the Eco-Rep coordinator during their CCN 2014 competition. So I'm going to let him tell you all about it, but you can also read more about their competition on competereduce.org. Under About, they've got a case study there written by Carl. So Carl, take it away.
Hello, can everyone hear me? I hope so. I'm not sure if anyone can respond, but I'm just going to go and dive right into it. Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Carl Amrit. I'm a sophomore here at Bard College, and I'm here to talk about our CCN competition last year and how effective it was. And so I'm just going to click through the slides. So looking at the first one, CCN, so Campus Conservation Nationals, looking at that, it was through the BARD Office of Sustainability. And so we have a student-led initiative called the EcoReps program. And so there are student representatives within the dormitories all across BARD's campus. So we had 19 competing dorms, roughly around 389 students across all those dorms, primarily first-year students. Given that BARD's an older campus, we're not equipped with accurate water gauges, so we only did the electrical portion of this competition. And so we chose four focus areas from our competition. So naming it BardCon, Bard Conserves, Compete to Reduce was our kind of our logo for the competition. So BardCon, our competition. And we wanted to focus on changing incandescent light bulbs to CFLs, unplugging it, unplugging vampire electronics so they consume energy even while plugged in, reducing it, so reducing your thermostat within the dorms when you're leaving the dorm, and conserving the water you use while using bathroom. So those are kind of our focus areas. So although we didn't do water conservation, we didn't gauge our water consumption, we still wanted to focus on that because it's still something that's really relevant and something to offset our carbon neutrality. So to talk about the BART of sustainability a little bit, our President Leon Botstein, signed the carbon neutrality pledge to achieve carbon neutrality by 2035. And so a way to assess and really evaluate our school's performance, we follow a STAR system, sustainability tracking, rating, and assessment system. And so we really wanted to find a competition and that really can give us data and hard concrete evidence to say how much we are doing and conserving here on Bard's campus. So Campus Conservation Nationals came up. This is our second year. Last year was our second year participating in this competition. The year previously, we never did any programming around it. It was completely for data collection purposes. And so this year, we wanted to take a different angle and have more programming around CCN. And so we created BARCON. And so all the data that we had from this competition, as you see in a couple slides following, we used to input into our STAR system and help with our STARS rating. Fortunately, this year, BARD achieved our gold seal. We were a silver seal campus. If you're familiar with the STAR system, we received gold seal this summer. So it was an amazing opportunity for us and a great achievement, and all of that is due in part to CCN. So we're glad to say that. So a little bit about BARD. We have 2,000 undergraduate students. From there, around 24 dorms across campus. So we wanted to tackle again on first year dorms, so we're looking at 389 students. This slide will go. So kind of, Hannah, if you can flip back one slide, if that's okay. Thank you. So around our competition, we had various events. So following this, we had Recycle Mania, which is another national competition, which was for the duration of the spring. Then following that, we had BardCon, or CCN competition, for the following 3 weeks. So we had numbers of events and programs around those 3 weeks. Two of those events were a meteor shower, and so it so happened that during the competition, there were meteor shower. So we had a way of engaging students, as Hannah said, we wanted to find a way to engage students and have them leave the dorms and to turn off their vampire electronics, turn off their lights, and really spend some time outside. We coordinated a meteor shower. And so we had a viewing that was in our Kruger Village. Our Kruger Village is kind of our, it's a consortium of like buildings in one designated area on North Campus. So we had a lot of students who came out to that. And following that, we had an outdoor movie screening of the film Switch. Switch is it's a documentary profiling electrical consumption all across the nation. So we wanted to stay true to reducing our electrical consumption, so we screened a film about it. And so now it was screened on the outside of one of our dorms here at Bard. And so again, we wanted to stay true to that sentiment, but also inform students and also educate them about sustainable practices that they can adopt across campus and within their lives. Following that was student engagement. And so we tabled in our campus center as you can see in the computer screen, that's one of our eco reps who are sitting and tabling. We had a survey that was there for students to kind of fill out and kind of tell us, like, kind of for us to tell us what sustainable practice that they already do, what sustainable practice are they aware of, and what and ways to improve that. And so in the survey, it asked a series of questions regarding what are some ways to reduce your electrical consumption? What are some type of light bulbs should you use? Should you be using LED, incandescent, CFLs? All of our questions related to our four focus areas of reducing it, our thermostats, unplugging it, vampire electronics, water, and changing it, our CFLs. And so that, again, that was our main way of getting the data from this competition to input it into our STARS system. Incentives to encourage students to do so. We had cookies that was donated by our dining services. We had pen styluses and eco-rep buttons and other pamphlets on the table. And so again, creating our own competition brand. As a competition director, I spent some time during my spring break of finding how can we brand ourselves. That was really instrumental in creating a kind of a face to our campaign. And so BardCon was our program, our competition's logo, but from there we had other little things like pen styluses. So as you can see on the table, those brown pens are made out of recycled cardboard, and on the pens was our logo stamped onto the pen. So it's a pen stylus. You can actually use that pen on like your electronic devices, so your iPhone, iPad, any type of like touchscreen device. You can use it as a stylus, but also you can click the top of it, and it'll turn into a pen. And so encouraging students to unplug their vampire electronics and remembering habits to reduce electrical consumption, we found out like what's something that you can use on your electrical devices, but also something that can as a memorabilia from this campaign. And so we use that as one of the methods to encourage students and remind them of that behavior. From there, we had buttons, stickers that stuck to mason jars. We have a tradition here at Bard's campus to give out mason jars as our way of plastic bottle divestment. And so on the mason jars, we handed out stickers for students to have all the logos of the competition as well. Following that, we had a sustainability pledge hung up in our campus center, and so these are one of our students here at Bard. And so a way of kind of our way of assessing again what our students know about sustainable practices, we wanted to see one way for students to reduce their energy or water consumption here at Bard. So we you can't really see any now. Maybe in the next slide I took a close screenshot, but that was kind of our way of seeing first how do students feel about sustainability. What are they doing? What energy practices are they doing? What water conservation practices that work best for them. So it's kind of a way to facilitate dialogue among students to see what's going on in campus, what can they do. And so that was helpful for us because by having sustainability pledge hung up in the campus center, it was kind of our way of seeing, well, our students aren't really doing anything, or these aren't practices our students are doing. So how can we implement them and how can we promote them from this competition thereafter? And it's also served as a way as passive education, a way of encouraging students to like educate yourselves on what your peers are doing, and so it was effective in that sense. A little bit about the competition. The way how it was structured is that we had a competition director, which was myself. From there, we had our building managers. Our building managers was comprised of various students, student eco reps in each of the competing dorms. And so with our sustainability manager, energy efficiency coordinator, and the BART sustainability, they worked with our building managers in each of the dorms to kind of gauge the meter readings every week to participate in this competition. We were fortunate enough to be in the top 10, so we had nearly the number was $923 of reduction, so 19%. We saved 5,768 kilowatt hours from this competition, which was a great feat because last year I don't think we came anywhere close to that number, nor did we have a competition as comprehensive as this one. Again, as in the case study, I touched base on some of our stakeholders, and so that include residential life. All our dormitories have RAs, our equivalent to RAs are peer counselors. And so our building managers and eco reps worked with the residential life staff to really coordinate programming around this and have address the concerns of the community and how to adopt these practices. From there, our programming budget was $374.90. We were given a cap of 400. We are well under that. Much of our spending was towards branding, so creating posters, creating the pens, buttons, all the paraphernalia that we had. And so again, we envision next year that our budget can be much less because we actually, instead of going with CCN, we stayed true to CCN and kept the compete to reduce motto. We hope to recycle many of the things that we used last year for this year and cut down on that cost for expenditures. So ultimately, it was a productive competition. It was very effective. We engaged many students, and a lot of students. We had nearly 200 students take our survey, our online survey. And so it was a great competition. We hope to do it again. And if there's any other questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Wonderful, Carl. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Chelsea Hogg. I'm the Director of Product Engagement here at Lucid, and I'll be taking it from here. So I think Carl's presentation really drove home a bunch of the reasons that Hannah covered earlier in this presentation about, the benefits that a CCN competition can really bring to your campus. And Carl is certainly living proof that, running a competition can just be a really incredible opportunity for students to take on a really substantial leadership position on campus and really have something tangible to show for all the work that they put in, which I think is tremendously exciting. So now that you guys have heard about kind of what CCN is, why it's awesome, you're probably stoked. You're like, all right, I'm ready to go. Let's do this. But like, what the heck are the next steps? So that's what we're going to talk about now. So the big picture, 30,000 foot view, is that CCN is really broken into three big chunks. The first phase of running a competition on your campus is planning. And the number one thing, a lot of you guys probably saw the email we get sent out about this, but the number one thing that CCN organizers told us in the survey that we did of them last year was that they wished that they had started planning earlier. So the earlier you can start planning, the more grateful you will be down the line. So once you finish planning, you're going to have your baseline period most likely. This is typically like a 2-week period immediately before your competition period, and then you have your competition after your baseline. So again, this is generic. Sometimes things change around a little bit, but this is kind of the big picture. So I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about the competition period. So your competition period is going to be any 3-week period during the CCN competition season, and that season is February, March, and April of 2015. So that is one of the great things about CCN is that it's a very flexible model where you can hold your competition again any time during that 3-month period. And the reason we require that a 3-week competition be the length of your competition is that we've really found that period of time just works the best for folks. So 3 weeks is long enough that it really gives people enough time to kind of figure out that the competition is happening, to get into it, to start making behavior changes, and then to have those behavior changes really turn into habits without the competition going on for so long that it becomes hard to maintain energy. So which and how many buildings participate in your competition? This is totally up to you. You can have any number of buildings that you want, anywhere from 1 building to your entire campus, and you can include any type of building. So this can be residence halls and apartments, Greek houses, academic buildings, student unions, administrative offices, and libraries, just to name a few, or I guess name most of the options. And we have had campuses run competitions with all of these different types of buildings. And you will want to do some thinking about, exactly how many buildings and, which types you're going to include in your competition, especially if this is your first year. And that's something that we'll really walk you through during our training webinar series and also in the resources on our website. So there are 4 different types of competitions, and you can do 1 of these, 2 of them, 3 of them, or 4 of them, whichever ones you like. So the first 2 types are a building versus building electricity competition on your campus and a building versus building water reduction competition on your campus. You can also do types 3 and 4, a campus versus campus electricity reduction competition and or campus versus campus water reduction competition. So every school that has ever participated in CCN has, not every, but almost everyone has done the building versus building competition on their campus. And then a number of schools have also done these awesome campus versus campus competitions. I don't think we've actually had any water ones, just because water metering tends to be not quite as common. But we've had lots and lots of campus versus campus electricity competitions. And just put in a couple logos from the 2014 campus versus campus competitions there at the bottom. In the middle, Bluegrass and Unplugged, that was a competition among 4 Kentucky schools. the Big Ten. I think 7 of the Big Ten schools did a competition that was great. We had a couple different school versus school, rival school competitions. So on the far right and the far left, we had VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University versus the University of Richmond, and the Campus Conservation Nationals. They're both in Richmond, Virginia, so that was a nice twist on the name. And then the Falcon Rocket Smackdown. In New York State, there's a New York Megawatt Challenge that's going into its 4th year this year. So lots of great options there. And to be clear, these campus versus campus competitions are self-organized. So we will indicate on the CCN website all the schools that said that they were interested in doing a campus versus campus competition. And then the campuses get kind of self-organized amongst themselves, and we're happy to share contacts and make introductions to make that happen, facilitate that. So the baseline period, kind of mentioned this before, but it's your choice as to what baseline period you want. So you can do, I guess I should say that we recommend, and most schools choose, the 2-week period immediately prior to their competition. That said, if you want to do the year before, if you want to do an average of the past 3 years, if you want to do the 3-week period before your competition, all of those are options, totally up to you. But we found that the 2-week period immediately prior to your competition is successful. All right, so now that you have kind of the big picture, planning, baseline, competition, I'm going to dive into some of the details of exactly what happens during those 3 time periods. So the first big step is to form a team and plan like a champion. And this, of course, is going to happen during the planning phase. Next up, you're going to add your buildings, add your meters, and add your competition to Building OS. And I'm going to talk about Building OS and what it is in more detail shortly. The third step is to collect your electricity and or water meter data and enter it into Building OS. And the reason this starts actually before the baseline period starts, it starts kind of at the end of the planning period, is that we highly recommend that you do a couple of test data collection days just to make sure you have your system down pat, because there is nothing worse than starting your baseline period and realizing that you don't have data for a couple of your buildings because the meter is malfunctioning. So step 4 is to implement your outreach and behavior change plan. That, of course, is going to happen during your competition. And step 5, not actually something that you do, but once your competition starts, participants are going to compete to reduce and check competition standings on building dashboard and building blocks. We'll talk about what those are in a moment. All right, so diving into more detail here, starting with step 1, form a team and plan like a champion. So the form a team piece is really important. CCN is something that makes sense to do as a team for a number of reasons. First of all, it's just you're going to be more successful if you have more people helping you. You'll have more ideas. Second of all, it's a lot of work, or a fair amount of work, to run a really successful competition. And second of all, as Carl mentioned, it's just a great opportunity to get students involved and really put them in positions of leadership. So typically, these teams include student leaders, sustainability office staff, if you have a sustainability office, residential life staff, and facilities staff to help you with the data piece. And we have lots more details about how we suggest you form a team, what typical team roles could be, what the responsibilities of each of those individuals would be. So we really guide you through this whole process of forming a team. The next thing you're going to do is plan like a champion. So we again have made this kind of as systematic and step-by-step as we can. So we have a competition planning guide that walks you through our whole kind of even more in-depth than what I'm walking you through right now process of how to kind of plan a competition step-by-step. Talks about things like goal setting, forming a team, recruiting building captains, all these different kind of pieces of the puzzle that you'll want to bring together, forming a brand. And the second thing is the marketing and behavior change guide. And that is really specifically about the nuts and bolts of how do you actually get people to change their behavior, and how do you get the word out? How do you market your competition? So in addition to those guides, we have a huge number of resources for you guys. We have a bunch of different posters We have a couple different versions of all of our posters. So we have versions you can literally just print out and slap up on the wall if you don't have time to customize them. We have other ones where you can customize them with your school's URL. So lots of different options there. We have all of our logos that you're welcome to put on your own posters. We have a bunch of different photo albums up on our Flickr page that are kind of inspiration boards for different pieces of running a competition. So we have one for awards. We're going to start one soon for events. We have another one for posters. So lots of different ways to get ideas and inspiration and a place to start. We also have a collection of 6 superheroes that were designed specifically for CCN. Each superhero has a specific superpower that he or she uses to save electricity and water on campus. So we make files and images of all of these guys available for you to use as part of your competition if you kind of want like a pre-made, ready-to-go brand for your competition. And again, you're welcome to take them, edit them, mash them up, do whatever you like. So just quickly, we have Captain Kilowatt, whose superpower is that he's extremely friendly and really great at persuading people to save energy. We have Solera, whose superpower is that he actually has photovoltaic skin, and so she can charge things just by touching them. So she charges all of her friends' devices so that they don't have to plug in. We have Zap, whose superpower is that he can see electricity and water flowing whenever he looks through a magnifying glass. So he can actually walk into a room and say, oh gosh, you know, that laptop over there that no one is using, it's still plugged in. And it's using a bunch of electricity, even though it's already charged. Let's pull the plug on that. He's good at just kind of sensing what's happening. There's Ollie Omni, and his superpower is that he can be in 2 places at once. So he's great at organizing events to get folks excited about reducing, just like the ones that Carl mentioned. And last but not least, fifth, we have Eva Ariel, whose superpower is that she can fly. So she uses this to do things like replace, incandescence with LEDs and CFLs, especially in hard to reach places. He's the hero of her school's facilities department. And lastly, we have Fiona Fuerte, whose superpower is that she is super strong. And she uses this to always take the stairs, never takes the elevator, and a variety of other, super tasks. So again, all these guys are up on the CCN website and available for you to use in your competition. Okay, so all these resources, yes, up on the website. This is just what I wanted to say. Playing your competition, you see the button right there. Okay, step 2, add buildings, meters, and competition to Building OS. So Building OS is a secure, easy-to-use online platform made by Lucid that automatically calculates your competition standings. So one of the great things about Building OS is that you can have multiple people on campus entering meter readings. You can customize all your buildings with photos that then show up on your building dashboard. It's also secure. So you need a password to log into it. You can invite an unlimited number of students and staff members at your school to become Building OS users. And the other great thing about it is it takes data in any format. So if you have data for some of your buildings in one format and data for some of your other buildings in another format, just enter it all into Building OS however it works, in whatever format it's come in, and Building OS will just process everything, normalize it all, and calculate your standings automatically. We do have also a great guide, the CCN data collection and Building OS guide, that walks you through step-by-step how to go ahead and set up your buildings and your meters in Building OS. And the other great thing is that everything you set up stays in Building OS year over year. So if you participated in CCN last year, all of your buildings and all of your meters are still in there ready to go. So you don't have to recreate them if you already have them set up. Step 3 is to read your meters and enter your electricity or water meter data into Building OS. So new this year, pretty exciting, there is now a mobile version of Building OS. So if you are actually going around and physically reading your meters, you can just bring up the mobile version of Building OS and just tap right onto your smartphone, read off the meter, and enter it right in right there. So no need to write down the value, write down the time, bring it to someone else, have them switch it over, all these opportunities for error, all that just goes away, enter the data straight into the iPhone app. And there's also some great things like the ability to add a photo of the meter, to even annotate the meter with, which value exactly should be read off of it. So we're really hoping that this helps schools to streamline their meter reading process and just make it less work. The other option is you can enter your data straight into Building OS. So this is just a screenshot of what the screen looks like to enter a new data. And during the competition period, readings must be entered at least twice a week. And this is because if you don't enter in readings, at least twice a week, folks are really only going to get feedback on how they're doing twice during the competition. That would be at the end of the first week and the end of the second week, where it's actually still actionable. At the end of the competition, it's like, great, you're in fourth place, but that's the end, and you can't then change the results. So if you do it twice per week, people will get more granular, more frequent feedback on how they're doing, and that will really motivate them to double down and further reduce. All right, so step 4 is to implement a marketing and behavior change plan. As I mentioned, we have an entire guide devoted to marketing and behavior change, but just in case you're not super familiar with what these might be, a couple examples of marketing, things like dorm stormings, that's kind of going door to door within a dorm, just meeting people, telling them about your competition, maybe asking them to make a commitment, having face-to-face conversations, of course, having a strong brand, a good name, and a good logo. Of course, you should leverage Facebook, host events, create posters, maybe do some chalking, make stickers, tabling, articles in your campus paper, t-shirts, etc. So there's just tons of different ideas and lots of success from other campuses to build on. Some ideas or examples of what your behavior change strategy might look like. Behavior change is really implemented via programming that makes use of behavior change tools. And these tools can be things such as feedback. So building dashboard and building blocks are really going to be the centerpiece of your feedback campaign. Competition, of course, is a behavior change tool. Commitments, social norms, incentives and prizes, prompts, implementation intentions, default options, etc. So again, details on all of these are in the marketing and behavior change guide, and we'll also be talking about them more in our training webinar series. So step 5, again, not something that you have to do, but participants compete to reduce and check competition standings on building blocks and building dashboard. So this is what building dashboard looks like, and it allows you to effortlessly share competition standings and engage and educate students and staff. Your building dashboard will be customized for your school. As you can see, you'll have your logo. This one is for a kind of model university that we called Conservation University. So it'll be your logo there, photos of your buildings, your name, your own URL. So buildingdashboard.net/your school name. And you can send people to this link to find out exactly how they are doing in your competition. And again, all the data that's shown here is updated automatically from the data that you enter into Building OS. You can actually check out this Conservation University mock building dashboard at buildingdashboard.net/conservationu. If you go to the How It Works section of the CCN website, there's also a link to it from there. The other piece that is brand new this year is called building blocks. So building blocks allow you to directly embed competition standings on an unlimited number of web pages to engage an even broader audience. And all of these blocks are totally customizable with your own colors, among other things. So for example, this is our competition leaderboard block. You can change the background color. You can change the color of this odometer at the bottom. You can hide the odometer, show the odometer. All sorts of customization options are available. And again, this is literally, you kind of design your block, you press save, then it gives you a little snippet of HTML code, like literally 3 lines, and you take that and send it to your web developer, and not web developer, but your website manager, and say, hey, can you, take this code and put it into our website? and it will show the building block there, and the results will update in real time, via Building OS. So again, just a great way to get your competition results in front of more people. So for example, you might, if you have a school intranet, you could put this on that page. If you have departmental websites, maybe maybe the history department is competing, you can put a building block for their building or for the competition on their department website. So really just making it as easy as possible for people to find out about the competition and know how their building is doing. All right, so I'm also going to talk a little bit about prizes. So prizes for school competitions and group, which is another word for a campus versus campus competition. For all those competitions, you guys provide your own prizes. CCN also provides a couple of prizes. So one of those is that we have certificates of recognition for the top 10 water reducers and the top 10 electricity reducers and top 5 water reducers. We also have 2 grand prizes. The first one is Building OS and Building Dashboard with real-time electricity monitoring for one of those top 10 schools. This is a 1-year license. And again, same thing with water for one of the top 5 water schools. CCN website has full prize details. We also have a poster contest. So we haven't finalized the details for this year's contest yet, but there will be cash prizes. Last year, the cash prize was $500 for the winning poster, so nothing to sneeze at. All the winning posters will be recognized on the CCN website, and the contest is open to anyone at any school that's registered for CCN 2015. Okay, so the big question in your head now might be, this sounds great, I'm excited, we can do this, but where are we going to get our meter data? Like, this is kind of like the big fuzzy question that hangs over people's heads that they can never quite figure out the answer to. So the best way to get this information is to go and talk to your facilities staff or possibly your accounting staff. And I'm going to kind of give you an overview of the different options that they might present to you, just so you can go into that conversation with a little bit of a stronger background. So your first option is to simply read the physical meters that are attached to your buildings. And that's exactly what this girl from the University of Alaska Fairbanks is doing in the picture at left. So this is an option that's available to everyone, so that's pretty great. There are some drawbacks to it, but it is a strong option. So the second option, and again, we're going to go into all of these options in more detail during our training webinar. So this is just kind of a high-level overview of what your options are going to be. Second option is to download daily data from your utilities online customer portal. Only some utilities provide this service. You're going to have to kind of hunt down the person on campus who has the login to your account on your utility customer portal, but this will save you from having to go and actually read the physical meters. So that can be a good option as well. The third option is to get a spreadsheet from your facility staff with data that they download from a building automation system. This could also be called an energy management system. These systems have lots of different names. Some of the big brands out there are Siemens, Honeywell, Johnson Controls, Automated Logic. If any of those names ring a bell, this might be an option for you. This is very simple, and if you have this, it's a great option. Lastly, if you are a Lucid customer, any building that is connected to Building OS and Building Dashboard, of course, will just have all of its data piped in automatically. So you do not need to worry about the data piece at all if you have real-time data connected to Building OS or Building Dashboard. One thing to note for Lucid customers is that, let's say you have 10 or 20 buildings on campus that are connected to your building dashboard, but you have another 10 on top of those that you'd like to include in your competition. You are more than welcome to include those extra 10 in the competition and then use options 1, 2, or 3 to get data for those buildings that don't have real-time data. So I also want to clarify that utility bills are not an option since they only provide monthly data. And of course, your competition is only 3 weeks long, and you're going to need data twice a week. So utility bills are out, unfortunately. So another big question we often get is, what if we don't have a meter in every building? So don't despair. You still have lots of options. One is that you can do a campus versus campus competition exclusively. So don't do a building versus building competition at all. Just compete against another school or another schools. As your entire campus maybe is on one whole meter. So just do that. A second option is to have buildings compete in groups. So we see a lot of schools where, maybe this quad with, 5 buildings is on 1 meter, and then another quad with 7 buildings is on another meter. So instead of having all the buildings compete individually, you just have, quad A compete against quad B. So it's one group of 5 buildings competing against one group of 7 buildings. So that totally works as well. And another option is to do a challenge. So instead of holding a competition, let's say you don't want to do A and maybe you don't even have, B doesn't even work because all of your buildings are on a single meter for your entire campus, just set a challenge goal. So, you say, we are challenging ourselves to reduce 5% during, during our challenge period. So this 3-week period in comparison to our 2-week baseline period. That totally works as well. It's another great option. And I put the picture of the data collection and building OS guide up here just because we really walk you through all of these options in there as well. Okay, what's next? And Hannah's going to take it over again.
Great, thanks, Chelsea. So there was a lot of information that we just went through, and so I want to run you through just essentially the next steps that you should be taking. And the very first is, of course, to sign up. If you haven't yet, go to competereduce.org and sign your school up. Anybody on the campus can actually sign their school up. So go there now and check it out because that's going to be the best way to stay up to date with all the stuff coming at you for CCN. The last day to register for this is November 7th, 2014. So be sure to sign up as soon as possible. Also, we want you to get these key dates onto your calendar. As I just mentioned, November 7th is the last day to register. Then in mid-November, participants are going to receive a link to their building dashboard, instructions for logging into Building OS. So that's when you're going to get access to the Lucid dashboard that Chelsea spoke about. Mid-November is when there's going to be a training webinar series. So I really encourage you all to join those because it's when we're going to give you more information and kind of some step-by-step info on everything from events you could be doing to meter data to organizing your team to even how to get media attention. Then December 19th is when the letter of commitment is due. So this letter of commitment basically ensures that all the appropriate stakeholders on your campus are on board to do this. So it's a mix of the administration or residence life or facilities, basically all the people on your campus that are going to need to be a part of CCN to make it a success. So as I mentioned, anybody can register, and then it's during this letter of commitment phase where you get those stakeholders on board. Then next semester, the competition window is February through April. As Chelsea mentioned, you're going to choose 3 weeks in there. And then in May, all of the results come out, and we're going to be announcing the top 10 and prizes and all of that great stuff. Chelsea mentioned this earlier, but I really can't emphasize enough the need to start early. The sooner you sign up, the sooner you can be putting together the team on campus that you need to make this a success. And the earlier you start, the less stressful it's going to be and the more successful. So don't just look at these key dates, but definitely get them on the calendar and take them seriously. Great. After that, we really want you to also spread the word. Encourage your rival school to sign up so you can compete against them or also benchmark yourself. And also don't forget to follow CCN on Facebook and Twitter. We're on Twitter at Compete to Reduce. We'll be giving you updates about the competition, and we can also highlight success that you all are having. So go ahead and follow us on social media. Then is, again, form a team and start planning. If you can form your team even before our training webinar series, which again are in mid-November, that's the best thing so that you can all start learning and putting together the resources you're going to be working with. And then, of course, turn in that letter of commitment, as I spoke about with all of the different campus stakeholders. And the last thing on your next steps is that I also encourage you to consider pairing Campus Conservation Nationals with Recyclemania. If you all aren't familiar with Recyclemania, I encourage you to check it out at recyclemania.org. But it's basically a competition on campus about recycling. We see a lot of schools do these together at the same time in a huge event, or you can also stagger them across the semester. But we just think you should definitely consider it because Recyclemania, just like CCN, can really contribute to that strong culture of conservation on campus and could be just a really exciting and fun way to get everybody involved. Yeah, and again, you can learn more about that on recyclemania.org or follow them at Recyclemaniacs. And with that, we've got a couple more minutes here, and so I'd love if we'll take any questions that you all have about CCN or the dashboard of your campus. And again, if you've got a question, you can actually go ahead and type them into the chat box, and we'll be able to draw them from there. So maybe you have a question about your specific campus or a question for us to go back and let you know about those resources we have, a question about registration, the timeline, or maybe even a specific question about the kind of meters that you might have on your campus. Well, while we're maybe gathering some of those, I also want to say that this is just our first of a couple of kickoff webinars. So even though our content's going to be similar for each webinar, if you do have questions or other people on your campus you might want to get involved, please have them join another kickoff webinar, and you can RSVP for those on competeToReduce.org because our CCN team will be here every webinar to answer questions that might come up. All right. Chelsea, it doesn't look like we have any questions. Do you want to just pop in and confirm that?
Yeah, so one question came in actually.
Oh.
And
okay, great.
Sorry about that. This is from Jennifer D. So Jennifer writes, we have real-time electricity meters on some campus buildings, but I'm not sure the brand. Is brand really a limitation? Great question. So brand is not a limitation. The main thing you're going to have to figure out is just, can you get the data out of your electricity meters? So as long as you have a way of getting the data from your electricity meters, maybe via a spreadsheet or report or some sort of portal that you can log into, you can then take that data and enter it into Building OS. And then the alternate, of course, would sign up with Lucid and connect your meters to Building OS, and then the data would come in real time. That would require you to become a Lucid customer, and there's of course a fee associated with that work. But it is very handy to not have to be able to or not be required to pull the spreadsheets and then enter the data, to just have all of that taken care of for you. And that is actually the only question we had. So thank you again, everyone. And if you have any further questions that you think up after this, feel free to email us. Again, we're at ccn@competetoreduce.org. That email address is all over our website, so if you forget it, it will always be there. And thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon. Oh, actually, JK, one more question. All right, this is a question from Lexi. Lexi writes, have schools in the past worked to reduce energy in their campus gym? To your knowledge, this is a huge energy draw on our campus, and I would love ideas on how to reduce that. Good question. I do not know of any schools that have included their gyms. Hannah, do you? Off the top of my head.
As part of CCN, I don't know any schools that have included their gym in the competition, but I would definitely agree that the gym can be a huge drain on energy because they often have those huge overhanging lights and don't turn them off. Um, but I think that we'd definitely be open to that happening for the first time. I have seen colleges, there's a colleges that do a program where they call Friday Night Lights, where on Fridays students walk around and make sure all of the academic lights are off for the weekend. And I think that even that could be an opportunity, an activity that would relate back to the gym specifically or facilities like that. So no, we haven't seen that before, but we hope to see it this year, Lexi.
Yeah, I agree. That would be awesome. And if you send us a quick email, we can actually run a quick report and look through all the 1,200 buildings from last year and actually see if any of those were gyms, and maybe put you in touch with any schools that did include a gym last year. But it's definitely a frontier to be explored for sure. Great. Well, no other questions have come in. So thanks again, everyone. And we look forward to seeing your name come up on the sign-up sheet. Take care.